We'll go to Bishop Grady laying over the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now I'm on daddy duty a little something, you feel me? Like I gotta still gotta keep it a stack with y'all, but you know, I ain't gonna put it out there. I could put it out there and get 1,000 likes on your motherfuckers, but I ain't even gonna do that. We gonna keep it a stack just with this news. So Donald Trump is actually confirmed what news outlets had already been talking about. The White House officials have been suggesting that they were going to start shipping illegal immigrants, or illegals as Donald Trump calls them, to sanctuary cities. Now, for those who don't know, sanctuary cities, states, areas, these are places that, you know, the governing body will bar local police from sharing immigration information with ICE, or Immigration and Customs Enforcement. That's basically like the immigration police that Trump been using like a motherfucking army. Now, actually, this situation in isolation seems kind of fair, but a lot of Democrats are actually up in arms about it. You know, and people just don't trust the people behind the. I mean, me personally, I don't trust even the people that are declaring themselves sanctuary cities. You gotta watch out for them too. But you see how this pans out though. Green Wall and graduation. The new world order, Bishop Grady laying over what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, this man has to be fucking stopped. Like, you gotta be fucking kidding me, yo. This dude is essentially waging a religious war by saying, he put out on Twitter 2 days ago, Donald Trump actually put out a video saying, "We will never forget," in bold letters, in all caps, pardon me. And the video actually showing the Twin Towers. Well, first it's showing Ilhan Omar, representative congresswoman from Minnesota. Now, this is also one of the first two Muslim people to actually be in Congress, like two Muslim women, and you know, she's been sworn on the Quran and everything, like, but she's been under constant attack by the right wing for essentially being that, and they call her, I guess, slipping, as they would see it, saying at a Caire talk that you know, some people did something in reference to 9/11. Now they're all up in arms. Trump shares this tweet, and now she's seeing a rise in death threats. This man must be stopped. Green Wall and graduation. We'll go to Bishop Grady laying over what the fuck going on for this BFN report. We got better lighting now. We got guards lighting, so we on go for the day. But the Yemeni Americans Merchants Association actually went on strike against the New York Post. Now, and they did this for seemingly a very good reason. The New York Post posted an article the other day where on the front page of their paper, it actually had a picture of the Twin Towers actually on fire from the explosions. Let's keep it a stack. It was explosions. And it's showing, here's your something, written over on top of the picture. And below the picture, it says, Representative Ilhan Omar, referencing a new Minnesota congresswoman who's one of the first Muslim people to be in Congress, swore on the Quran and everything, actually saying at a quote that got taken out of context, that 9/11 was something some people did. It was inciting all types of hatred against her. Like, she's getting death threats are on the rise, for Christ's sakes. Like, these people must be stopped. So Yama decided to take that action against them, and I hope a lot of other people don't allow that to happen either. New York Post is filthy. Green Wall and graduation. The new world order, Bishop Grady laying over what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, I told y'all, I already hinted that this was going to happen, that the International Criminal Court actually said it will not be investigating the United States' role in Afghanistan and their role in war crimes in Afghanistan, pardon me. Now, this is powerful because, in a negative way, because it shows to the rest of the world that big countries or big powers won't be held accountable for even, you know, war crimes, because as WikiLeaks and other outlets have shown over the years, that there were a lot of atrocities committed by U.S. sanctioned militia or organizations, or even just by the U.S. itself, being committed out there. And now with tactics like I told y'all about Fatuba, I think it's Batuta or something like that, who had actually brought this case to light in 2017 to the ICC. They wouldn't even let her into the country, into the U.S., to do any further investigation. So it seems like they're bowing down. Green Wall and graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady laying over what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, over in Sudan, actually, the Africa, I told y'all already about how President Omar al-Bashir, his regime was basically overthrown. I mean, they've been protesting for months, very, very heavily. I mean, to the point where there's been a lot of violence. 50 protesters have actually been killed since December. But mind you, with this overthrow, it was actually with military help. This past weekend, the weekend before last, this past one actually, there were sit-ins held at the Capitol and a lot of demonstrating along with the military coming in finally into al-Bashir's home and actually are putting him on house arrest. Now this is the military had then installed a military council, a transitional military council to rule the country for the next couple of years, but the protesters weren't having it. Now the head of that military council has actually stepped down. So we'll see how this pans out. The ICC, the International Criminal Court, actually wants them to comply with al-Bashir, but the people of Sudan are saying they want to hold trial for him in Sudan. Green War and graduation. The New World Order, Bishop Grady laying over what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, over in Algeria, Africa, actually, I told y'all about how President Bouteflika, Abdelaziz Bouteflika, who's actually a 4-term president, that protesters have actually been, in all throughout Algeria, especially in the capital, protesting for months to actually get him to resign his power, resign from his position and give up his power. Well, it turns out like this really was the people wanting a complete regime change, because all of that pressure applied to do actually got him to resign from his position earlier than he even had to give it up. He had to give it up this summer. He already resigned about last week, but this past weekend there were actually 100 protesters that were arrested because the interim president is basically saying a part of the same ruling class, and they want them motherfuckers out of here. So they just want to uphold purge of the ruling elite from the government, and that's why people are still really active about that situation out there in Algeria. Green War and graduation. We'll go to Bishop Grady laying over what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, I told y'all about over in Libya, there's been a internal conflict where a renegade general by the name of Khalifa Haftar actually assembled an army, the Libyan National Army, and got them to march on the capital of Tripoli, capital of Libya, where that houses the Government of National Accord, which is the United Nations backed army there for Libya. Now, in season there, there's been a lot of violence. Over the past week and a half, there have been actually 120 people that have been killed from their conflict. So it's getting real over there. There's nothing to sneeze at. And obviously, the United Nations is worrying that there's for things like disease and just obviously the body count. We'll see how this pans out. Haftar, the renegade general, he actually even met with Egyptian President El-Sisi. So it's interesting politics being played there. I'm out of Green War and graduation. We'll go to Bishop Grady laying over what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Scruff McGruff for the moment, but let me get my shit right. But I still gotta let y'all know what's happening out here. Like over in Pakistan, actually, in the northern city of Quetta, in the Balochistan province, I believe that's what it's called, Balochistan province. There's a lot of Hazara Shia Muslims there, and this community has actually been under siege, complaining to the government about violent attacks that have been against them that the government has seemingly not done anything about. Seems like a little racism, little tribalism thing going on over there, but nevertheless there was a suicide bomb this past Friday that took out 24 people. Now the Lashkar-e-Jhangvi militant group actually is believed to be behind the attack. But like I said, there's been a lot of attacks against this particular community anyway. So we'll see how that pans out. 24, that's a lot of bodies, man. Green War and graduation. We'll do the Bishop Grady lay yellow what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Over in South Korea, they actually lifted a 66-year-old abortion ban, not a plan, it's a plan to ban. They basically said it even led to doctors getting arrested for actually conducting abortions, to people getting fined and arrested as well for actually undergoing abortions. So this was obviously celebrated by free choice people around the world. That's a cross-cultural, cross-religion
thing as far as women's rights and people's rights in general, like government not being able to govern that. And so it's just looked at as a huge win. Green Wall and graduation. We'll go to Bishop Grady laying on what the fuck going on for this BFN report now. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, yeah, you're hearing it right, DeWine, DEWINE, wine. That Chianti, that's my favorite shit. But Mike DeWine, on a serious note, actually signed the fetal heartbeat bill, which is being signed by governors across the country and declined by governors as well. But basically says that once a woman can detect a heartbeat while she's pregnant, she can no longer have an abortion. Now, mind you, this sometimes happens by 6 weeks, and sometimes women don't even know they're pregnant around that time. So it's highly problematic, especially for the pro-choicers. And this is what's happening in Ohio. Mississippi is expected, the governor there is expected to sign one. So is the governor in Georgia. The dude that cheated, Stacey Abrams, out of all the votes. But it's also being declined by states like Kentucky and Iowa. So stay tuned, man. Green Wall and graduation. We'll do the Bishop Grady laying over what the fuck going on for this BFN report. Now, the House Ways and Means committee actually extended the deadline to when the IRS and the Treasury Department needs to submit Donald Trump's tax returns to April 23rd. Originally, they wanted it for, I think it was last week, actually. Might have possibly this week, but now they got to the 23rd. Now, in doing this, the head of this particular committee, Richard Neal, he actually said that the IRS or the Treasury, they actually don't have the power of the law to refuse this type of a request, even though Steve Mnuchin, the guy who actually is the secretary of the Treasury Department, suggested, low-key suggested that that's he supports Trump's right to not have to show it. So we'll see how this pans out. It could get interesting. Green Wall and graduation.